My guest on the podcast today is the author of the best-selling book, Dare, the New Way to Break Free from Anxiety and Panic Attacks. He's also the creator of the best-selling anxiety treatment program, Panic Away. His program has been purchased by more than 70,000 people worldwide and has been featured on TV and radio across America. For over 10 years, he started teaching people a breakthrough approach for ending panic attacks and is now one of the most sought-out anxiety coaches online. Unlike traditional approaches, which is why I love the dude, anxiety is about getting over it, not managing it. It's about the results and all that matters, and that's the approach I love. Welcome to the show, Barry McDonagh.
Happy to be here, and thanks for having me.
Oh, I was excited to. Took a couple weeks to get you on. I know you're a busy man, but anybody that takes the mental health approach to going, let's not manage symptoms and let's actually do something is cognitively rampaging, in my opinion, and someone I really want to talk to.
Cool.
Well, before we walk through the book, if you will, maybe try to give some people some tips or some help to implement in their lives, I'd like to actually know more about you, kind of where you came from, about the author page, maybe even what you may have dealt with personally that maybe walked you down this path to help so many others.
Yeah, it's funny. I never thought I'd be doing this so many years later. I mean, it's probably going on about 15 years. And it all started from a panic attack I had when I was actually in church at the time. I had been drinking a lot the night before. I had finished some exams. I was exhausted. I had this huge panic attack and I didn't know what it was. And it sent me into this tailspin of anxiety, of fearing fear. Because I got through that first one, but I was then terrified of when the next one was going to happen. So that caught me up in general anxiety, and the general anxiety fed the panic and intrusive thoughts and depersonalization and everything that goes with an anxiety disorder. I kind of experienced it all over the course of about a year and a half. And it was while I was working through my own stuff, and I didn't seek help. I should have, but I didn't. And I'm always telling people, go get help, reach out. But I was afraid I was going to get put on medication. I was afraid someone was going to tell me I was losing my mind. So I was just really bottling it up and keeping it to myself. And the internet wasn't around then at that time. So you couldn't go online and Google these things and just, join a forum or something like that. So it was books in libraries and stuff like that. And then, it was weird. I had really reached rock bottom with it. I hit this moment where I thought, if these panic attacks are going to keep threatening me this way, I would prefer to die. I was really that depressed with it all, that caught up in it. And when I did that, when I kind of said to the anxiety panic attack, come on, kill me, do your worst, something shifted. I could feel something change and a bit of confidence coming back. And that was the beginning of stripping away the fear of the bodily sensations and stripping away that fear of fear. And everything I teach grew out of that moment, that paradoxical moment of asking more of the thing you don't want in an anxious moment. And that's kind of where it got me to today. I'm scratching my head with Dare, for example. It's the highest rated book on Amazon for anxiety, top selling book on Amazon. And it's like, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a mental health professional. But I think because I'm coming from the other side of the fence, from someone who's suffered from anxiety, people really relate to it. They say, it's like you're reading my diary, you're reading the thoughts, the anxious thoughts I have. And I think that's why it's connecting with people.
Well, I think it's the best way to approach it. I had Dr. Duff on here, Robert Duff, talking about the terminology that all us professionals, so-called mental health professionals, use. And this terminology loses people. It makes you scared. It kind of backs you away. You numb out to it. And when people can read from the mouths of someone experiencing it like that, when they can crawl into those same thoughts, we truly find where we connect on so many levels of that experience. Myself, recently, True has been experiencing ups and downs, right, with anxiety. And I'm going through a major change in my life. And nowhere I hadn't been before. I've been in some scary damn places. So for me, I had this approach of going, man, I've been in shootouts, man. Like I've been in crazy places and I'm sitting here and nothing is really attacking me. But like you said, those panic attacks come on and then, or a feeling, this peak feeling of doom, right? Then you're worried, dang, when's the next one? Then you start going, wait, is that PTSD now approaching? Like, what am I going through? And I had a moment where I even did a video on it where I just got pissed off. I just said, you know what? This is what it is. Okay, fine. I'm gonna come get you or come get me, right?
Yeah,
There was that
that was what I
powerful.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me more about that moment for you, that day that you kind of said, you know what? Fuck it.
Well, I was in my bedroom. I think I was lying on the bedroom floor, and it just felt that bad. I wasn't going out. It was college, I was in college at the time, and I was missing out on everything. And I just thought, no, kill me rather than threaten me. It's like having this imaginary gun to your head all the time, thinking that a panic attack is going to push you over the edge, it's going to drive you insane, or it's going to give you a heart attack or whatever. And just, saying, okay, pull the trigger then, anxiety. So I was having this conversation with anxiety, and I was saying, do your worst, bring it on, make my heart stop, then make me suffocate. And because it didn't, I thought, wow, okay, now I'm winning back ground. Now I'm getting power back that I had lost, and I could feel my confidence return. So I started going out to the places that I was scared of and saying, okay, let's have a panic attack here. Let's try and bring it on. And it's not easy. That does take courage, because it's pretty terrifying. You're shaking at the same time. You've got all that nervous adrenaline there, but you're still doing the things you want to do. And what people find strange about DARE is that I don't teach people how to be calm and relaxed. I teach people how to be comfortable with the pain and the discomfort of nervous arousal. And when you do that, when you get comfortable with all of that extreme arousal, then you can move on with your life and you can do things that you want to do. And as a consequence, as a side effect, you become calm, you become relaxed, you become confident again. But that isn't the goal. The goal is just, the main first goal is get comfortable with the discomfort. And when you do that, you don't feed the fear anymore. You don't fuel that fire of fearing fear,
And an exposure, almost sit in the uncomfortable until we acclimate, right? Allow the mind and the body and be. Yeah, I think you're so on point with the first step being that in the book, even when you're writing, is because we fear that experience, right? We fear that moment of entrapment, of sweating from every pore. We may pass out. People will see us all. Can they tell I'm not talking? Right? All that moment of just of crimmed up, right? Your ass cheeks are crumbed so tight, then you realize every muscle's flexing and you're like, oh my, breathe, man. And
Yeah.
that moment of really trying to, I guess, not be afraid, right, of that moment.
Yeah, and understanding, for example, like cortisol has kind of this spike of about 20 minutes, knowing that it's going to be gone in about 20, 30 minutes max. The cortisol will metabolize, knowing that this is a wave, and it's about, are you going to ride the wave, or are you going to let it toss and turn you around? And you ride it by bringing it on, demanding more. That third step of DARE, run towards it. And that lets you surf it out for 20, 30 minutes, but you're only surfing nervous arousal. You're not surfing fear anymore. It's like surfing the jitters you get from coffee, and you can do something with that nervous energy. You can put it into your work, you can express yourself, but it doesn't make you fearful. And that's the key difference.
I think it's huge because fear, it spikes mostly every chemical in your body of what to do. And you're right. I think getting through the fear part and the understanding, it's almost being aware, right? Being aware, being competent of what you know will happen to your body allows
Yeah.
you to then bring down that redlining of the anxiety.
And knowing you can handle it, knowing this is just like a vigorous workout, the same as you get from a treadmill, with that pounding heart, the sweating, all of that arousal, knowing that your body's well able to handle this. It's just like a jog in the park for your body. It's your mind that's freaking out. It's your mind that's got this fire alarm going off saying panic, panic, panic. But you're not in danger. Panic attack is not going to kill you. So let's turn off the fear part of this, and let's then just deal with the arousal and let it ride it out. And then you're back to your normal state. And then the great thing is, though, you stop fearing the situations, you stop fearing the sensations. And then as you stop fearing those things, well, then you're just back to who you were before. You've got anxiety like everybody else. Everyone gets stressed, everyone gets anxious, but you don't peak into panic attacks. You don't get stuck in generalized anxiety because you're not ruminating on it. So you're back to kind of baseline, normal level, everyday levels of stress and anxiety.
Yeah, I typically take a little things too far. Imagine that. And when I was experiencing, I'm still personalizing. I'm gonna keep doing it because that's what I do.
Too. Yeah.
So I was going through it where I was, and I decided, you know what I'll do when I'm feeling anxiety in my life is I'm gonna load up everything I own into my car, and I'm including my dog, and I'm going to drive across the country because that will be the most comfortable place that you'll want to find yourself. And I found myself halfway across the country at times in those moments where those sensations are coming. And like you said, looking out the window going, fucking kill me then. Literally going, you know what? Just do it. Just take it down because I'm tired of this. And, all that said in jest, you mentioned a very dark moment to where I could imagine I could move the chess pieces forward being a practitioner as a human being, saying if this was the next 10 years of my life, why you can see anxiety is so closely connected with suicide and people wanting to end that and face it. But what you're saying in the first step is to actually turn and face it. Not so much this, what you hear is the acceptance of and the meditation way of
Mm-hmm.
mindfulness, changing your mind, as opposed to taking that on and sitting in those sensations, almost adjusting biologically and mentally.
Yeah, yeah. And mindfulness is great. It's a great tool after you get out of your anxiety disorder. It can be a weird one to use when you're highly anxious because you're already feeling a bit weird, and then suddenly paying a lot of attention to your body and your breath can feel very uncomfortable, if you're suffering from a lot of anxiety. So,
Whoa.
because everything is already a bit strange, and then
Yeah.
mindfulness is a new tool and it's a new kind of way of feeling your senses that can throw people a bit. But when you come out of the anxiety, it's a great tool for keeping anxiety at bay, keeping your stress levels down. But I think mindfulness is missing a trick, which is Rick Hansen would call it wise effort. Your brain needs direction at the same time. It needs wise effort. It needs wise kind of promotion and direction. So it's like, it's great to be mindful. It's great to bring that calmness into your life, but you also need to work on stuff. You also need to work on shifting attitudes. Maybe you've got low self-esteem. I don't believe mindfulness is going to change your relationship towards your self-esteem. So there's stuff there that needs effort, that needs working on. But and that's where you bring in other tools. But I do like mindfulness. It's just kind of a post-anxiety disorder thing.
I think that's a great point again, Barry, is sitting in the moment. It teaches you. I talk a lot about reframing in the moment and constructing new observations to change how we feel, which is very strong. But that double-edged sword of that moment, I would say, is when you are sitting there in those sensations and you're then
Yeah.
processing yourself and you're going, well, that's a rapid heartbeat. Well, I'm sweating like crazy. Well, there's my vision is fucked up. So you really analyze the present, which is what mindfulness really is, right? It's just telling us to look at the present, and as we start to interpret that, it can make it worse. I think that's a
Yeah, yeah.
huge point.
Yeah, because if the present moment is very uncomfortable, it amplifies it. It's suddenly, wow. And there's this weird sensation with
Wow.
anxiety called depersonalization, which is everything feels a bit weird. It's a bit like looking through the world like through a pane of glass. Everything feels disconnected, and you're not sure if you're here in the world. And it's just a very strange, unreal feeling. And you mix that with a bit of mindfulness, and you're really going to start tripping out.
Yeah, that's I'm still looking at it because now I'm going, maybe I was employing the wrong tactic at the moment where I'm sitting there and I'm being so mindful of my physical and my thoughts. You're right that, but I think what you're mentioning is the behavior, right? Is doing something, working on the self-esteem, growing something. And I also write about that, right? Is that we can use our behavior to also adjust how we feel and what we think, get up and go do something. And I think you were suggesting something like that as we move beyond getting comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Yeah, like the fourth step of Dare Engage is about engaging with activities, things to occupy yourself with, so that you don't ruminate, so that the mind doesn't turn back in negatively. So it's having a conversation with people. It can be a walk. Like, I think there's an element of mindful walking where you're out in nature. That can be good, where it's not too focused on the mind and the body. But let's say you're walking around and you're just, appreciating what a nice day it is and feeling the ground beneath your feet. That can work well to keep you out of the anxious loop. So, like Dare, all of the work, it's kind of a loop. And that fourth step, engage, is engage with life, because that's where you want to be. You want to be connected and flowing with life again, living the life you did before anxiety became a problem, So Like everyone who comes to me says they just want their old self back. They want to feel like they did before they had anxiety and panic attacks and their confidence was shot. So you get them back there, but actually what you find is something has shifted, because if you suffer from anxiety or panic attacks, you get challenged in a way nobody really normally gets challenged. It's a very internal kind of process that goes on. Like it's an internal worry. Most people worry about the external world, about relationships, career, finance. When you're worrying about panic attacks, you're worrying about your sanity, and you're worrying about, are you going to live or die? So when you overcome that, you've got this new level of confidence about your own mental kind of processes that you didn't have before. So now you can deal with other stuff that comes up, in your life, other emotions, other difficulties, because it's all an internal work. And you've dealt with anxiety. Well, now you feel confident you can deal with this, whether it's grief or depression or whatever. So it does build your confidence up. So you're never really the same once you come out. I believe you're further down the road, you're stronger, you're better.
The added age, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? Is it
Yeah.
and you do start to feel that way as you come through certain experiences. You're going, wow, I can take anything. I didn't believe I could do that, and now I'm here. And you mentioned the important part, about engaging is generally the first thing with anxiety, right? As people start to withdraw, right? They stay at home. Is that something you experience? Is that what you deal with when you're working with people?
Yeah, a lot of people would be, when they come to me, are stuck at home. So, they're agoraphobic. They don't want to go out. They don't want to, some of them don't even want to leave their bedroom. The bedroom becomes the safe zone in the extreme cases. So it's about challenging the idea of what is a safe zone and getting them to push outside further and further. So we, might start off and get people to draw circles of, well, where do you feel safe? And they say, okay, I feel safe in my bedroom. And then it's using dare to get outside of the porch, get outside the house, go get the mail. And then it's pushing further, get in your car, drive around the neighborhood. And you push out, you push out, you push out. And then suddenly you realize there is no safe zone. It's just you. You carry the safe zone within yourself everywhere you go. So it doesn't matter whether you're on a desert island with no doctors, no hospital nearby, you still have that inner resource, that inner confidence with you. So that's kind of the end goal, building up that confidence. But I'm talking about extreme cases there. Not everybody is that bad that they can't leave their bedroom, but it's, it does happen quite a bit.
For sure, it generally starts somewhere. I don't want to be in public, or I don't like to be here, and it's a slow downward spiral to withdrawing almost completely from our lives. Hence the I want my old self back.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned the 4 steps, if you will. Would you mind walking through those? I know we covered them kind of in roundabout, but kind
Sure.
of so they're more in sort of an equal layout for people.
Yeah. So it's dare, diffuse, allow, run towards, and engage. And the first one, diffuse, is really because most anxiety comes up as a what if thought. It's like, ooh, what if this happens? What if my heart stops? What if I suffocate? What if I go mad? What if I can't handle? It's basically a what if I can't handle this situation or moment. And you diffuse that with humor and certain sentences, like you can use swear words like who gives a fuck or so what or whatever. And if you load it actually with swear words, it's even more powerful. And it just helps to kind of get you down a bit from peaking into higher anxiety. So it's kind of, let's diffuse this anxious rambling, that the anxious mind is thrown out. Then you move into acceptance. So you go, okay, so some stress hormones have been released. I'm feeling on edge now, so let's accept it. I'm going to accept and allow this nervous arousal. I'm not going to get upset by it. I'm not going to push it away, try and calm myself down with it. I'm just going to be, this is okay. And I'll continue doing what I was doing. So it's kind of like sitting with it, being the observer of it. It's that very kind of Buddhist Eastern approach to dealing with difficult feelings and thoughts. And then you move, if the anxiety is still rising, if it's moving into a panic or heightened anxiety, you start to run towards it. So this is the demand more, bring it on. So if you feel, actually, I think there's a panic attack coming, well, then you flip it and you go, I'm excited by this feeling. I'm not scared of it, I'm excited by it. You flip fear into excitement, bring it on, demand more. Then you're, as I said earlier, you're just left with nervous arousal. This is just a pounding heart, just kind of a jittery feeling. It's not a sense of threat or doom. I'm not going to die here. And then as you come out of that, if it's the wave, you've come up here on the third one, and then back down, engage. So engaging with life, connect with what's going on around you, have a conversation, do whatever, occupies your mind so that you're not waiting and thinking and ruminating. And then that's it. So it's up and down and out. And if it peaks again, you do the same thing. You repeat it over and over. and you put yourself in situations that challenge you. You get out there and you practice those 4 steps. And as you keep moving through it, confidence keeps rising and rising to the point where you forget about dare. And all you get is this kind of, it's more of an attitude or a feeling that comes up. So anytime you feel that anxious, nervous arousal, you just kind of go, it's almost like it's just okay. It's now you know you can handle it. There's trust and confidence there. So you don't have to bother about the steps anymore. And it's kind of where you were before. Like before it was just okay. I mean, a lot of people get strange sensations and it doesn't tip them into a panic attack or weird thoughts, and they don't get highly anxious about it because they're not so sensitized. They're not like at an 8 or a 9. They're just at a 3 or a 4 max. So when you're back down there, it's fine. Everything just kind of passes by like clouds overhead, and you don't get caught up in it. You don't get hooked in by those anxious thoughts. And that's you back, back to the way you want to be, living life confidently, not second guessing everything, where I'm going today, who will be there, what will the situation, how will I get out of it, having your exit strategy. So that's a great place to be, because then you're confident, you're cool and confident again.
I can see why the book and program does so well, because everything you're saying is based in science, or at least psychology, the art of anyway, and behavior research and all of this. It's written right properly. Then you could say it's based in science, because that's the truth. The exposure therapy, you're adjusting biology through the exposure. You're doing tons of cognitive reframing work, behavioral work on the back end. Even exposure to environments and awkward environments. It seems like what would take a year or 2 years of anxiety therapy process of slowly walking people through these, working them out, seems real short here and written in common language.
Yeah, it's kept short and simple so that people know and remember what to do. Because if you're in a moment of panic, generally you forget what to do. It's kind of like, what am I meant to do here now? So, you remember the steps. It's easy to kind of think your way through it. So like, it's also the language that's used. The language is so important, that you talk to people at their level and that people feel it's a conversation over, in a coffee shop rather than in a therapist room. And that people resonate with that. Well, and then we get people in the Facebook groups, and they take photos and they upload photos of themselves doing stuff, and that inspires and motivates other people. So we've got this motivational group, and it's just for motivation and success. So it's about focus on the goal. Let's not ruminate. Let's not talk about anxiety and kind of just kind of well in it. Let's move forward. Let's focus on the goals. And that group's so inspiring, because people do incredible stuff. And then because the phone is with you everywhere, you take a photo of it, you upload it, and it's peer-to-peer support, really. And I think that's the new model of mental health. I think it's peer-to-peer stuff, people getting together online and supporting each other with the right tools. I mean, there's never enough therapists to go around to treat everyone. So people get the tools, implement it, and then support each other with technology.
Yeah, the social connection influence is amazing. And, some people, bark at the idea that it's online. And I'm saying, hey, whatever fucking works, man.
Oh, yeah.
And, the social connection theory, all these ideas, they seem like does to me, really, right? Where they're like, oh, hey, we're actually healthier when we're socially connected. You're like, yeah, you think. And, but the idea that somebody too is experiencing what I'm experiencing, right? That idea that I'm not alone is that kind of the centerpiece to the Panic Away program?
There's a lot of that, yeah. Letting people know that those really weird thoughts that you could never tell anybody else are very, very common. That thing I talked about earlier, the depersonalization, that feeling of unrealness, all that stuff is just also super common. That really helps, knowing that there's nothing wrong with your brain. This is just something, there's a behavioral problem. You have to relearn how to respond in the right and the correct way to these anxious sensations. That you're not going mad, you're not going to get locked up, they're not going to take the kids away. All of that stuff just kind of helps people go, fuck yeah, thank God, it's not just me, and there's a way out. And most importantly, that you can have a full recovery from anxiety, because that message is not out there enough. All you hear is management, anxiety management, and cope with this problem, medicate yourself, keep it at bay. But people aren't getting the message that you can have a full recovery from anxiety. And we're proving it in our groups. Anyone can join and just watch the success of these people who were stuck in their bedrooms, and who would probably just be coping with it, for the rest of their lives if they hadn't got the right tools. So that's key. Giving people that kind of hope is key, and giving them motivation to go out and do the work. And it's hard work. It's not easy. There's a lot of work involved, but the rewards are well worth it, because the rewards are your freedom.
Yeah, you're so right. The idea of going, hey, fight and raise money for cancer treatment. You don't hear cancer cures, and it's so much that way in mental health, brother. You hit it right on the head, man. And I don't care if that's anxiety, depression, and especially addiction. All they do is market the idea that it's some chronic disease, that it's some brain infestation of something that's wrong with you, and they market this on 100% level and convince everybody this is something that you need to manage now for the rest of your fucking life, and take a Xanax every time shit gets a little tough. And I'm so with you, Barry, that message is not out there. The idea that you can walk through it, you can be cured. I don't even like the idea when I hear certain professionals even talking about, well, anxiety is about 2 to 6 years, depending on how much therapy and work. You don't fucking know. You don't.
Yeah.
For me, it's like I respect the process for sure, but when you really think about it, we have a process, and then what happens through experience and exposure? One day we just change what we believe. Nothing magical happens, and they're like, respect the process. Well, how about I just fast forward to that day where I actually believe it, and I just change what I believe about it, and then I can change right fucking now, and not 6 months or 2 years, or keep seeing me once every week for $250 an hour, and we'll do some medication management, and you're never going to get over this completely now. We all experience it, and you live with this now, man.
Yeah.
You sent me into a little rampage there, Barry, but you're right on, man.
Yeah, it's and I'm not peddling false hope by saying you can recover from anxiety problem. I'm saying it's absolutely doable, but there's work involved. I'm not saying you can read DARE and it's gone. You got to read the book and go out and practice. That's the hard bit. You got to implement the stuff, and you can have a fast recovery if you're willing to do the work, do that kind of hard lifting. It's like going to the gym, lift heavier weights, build up that capacity, build up those resources, and get out there and practice. And that's what makes the difference. The only thing that'll keep you stuck is if you give up. If you just think, oh, my anxiety is different. I hear that a lot, but my anxiety disorder is different, or I've had it too long. I've had it 20, 30 years.
I was so going to call you on that. I was going to go, all right, Barry, to be devil's advocate, look, you just don't understand. You haven't lived my life. You haven't seen what I've seen. And talk more about that. And when you deal with that, either yourself or with other people, when they hit you with you just don't understand.
Well, I think it's the person's anxiety almost talking. It's the anxious mind coming in and saying, best leave alone. Let's not go here. Let's just manage this as it is. And your anxiety this is the anxiety talking to the person. Your anxiety is different. You went through that terrible thing, and this probably won't work for you. And let's not try, because here's the thing. You're going to be disappointed. And if this is the only way out of getting your anxiety and you don't make it, then wow, you're going to feel terrible. So that's what really tricks people and holds people up, is like, what if I fail? What if I try and fail? And these are all kind of tricks of the anxious mind to get people, it's kind of the protective self to get people not to try and to play it safe. But if people can step beyond that, if they can have the confidence to try something new, and I mean, like really try, like really go out and practice, then they're going to start to see improvements very quickly. And the great thing is you just need a few small wins to know, oh, something changed there. I feel better. And you build it up and up and up, and then suddenly you're like, wow, I'm so much better than I was a month ago. And then the next month's better again. And then the setbacks, there's always setbacks. But if you're aware of the setbacks, if you're aware the recovery is up, down like that, always moving up, but with these dips, then okay, this is a setback. I'm having a bad day. I'm having a bad week. And you just kind of get back in the saddle and keep going. Because I see setbacks throwing people, that becomes their excuse. It's when the setback hits that they go, oh, my anxiety is different. I've got something you've never heard before, or etc. Yeah.
Yeah, you bring up another great point, is that idea of not trying what may be or thought to be believed as the last hope. And I think a lot of people that deal with anxiety, depression, addiction, even, or even a career, some dream they have, they don't go for it, or they don't try it all the way, because maybe to them it would either confirm they don't have a disease, or it would confirm to them that I really am that messed up, that I am that unique. I have that 1% of the diagnosis version of it. And we just kind of lay back and we play Olay and laissez-faire with the idea of just, I think, sitting around acceptance. But I think many people, I think, cross over acceptance and apathy.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Acceptance and apathy. Apathy is the giving up. It's kind of, it's the depressed state. Acceptance has this transformative quality to it. When you accept something, it starts to change and shift and transform. You're kind of, it's not I accept this and I'm going to live with it forever. It's I accept this for this moment. I accept that right now I'm feeling shitty, but I know that through acceptance that will shift because everything passes. And it's kind of, it's acceptance is positive. You know, acceptance is like a positive force of positive outlook of kind of like, yeah, things aren't good right now. It's being realistic. It's saying like I am in pain, emotional pain right now, but because I'm accepting it, it's sitting better. It's not rubbing up against me as badly. And then you start to kind of, it's like these chains start to fall off you, and you become free of it. It transforms that way.
I think the second part you mentioned that is almost as important as the acceptance part is the actual behavior of action, and not the acceptance to indifference to apathy, to where we say, well, I've accepted I have a brain disease and I am going to be anxious or battling addiction my whole life, and now let's just manage it. I think that second part is just as important as when you do have that acceptance. And I think you got to be careful, right? What you accept. For me, it was, I could never get past the first couple steps in the step programs of accept that you're powerless against drugs and alcohol. I used to tell people in the groups, I would say, look, if I was going to put you in the ring against Mike Tyson at his prime, or even now, and you had to get in, and would you accept that our strategy was going to be for you to just cover up and let him wail on you? Well, if so, that's how I interpreted accept the fact you're powerless against this or that, or accept the fact you can do nothing. And rather than accepting the fact this is the moment, the point that you made is this is the moment now, but I can move through that and I can change and have a strategy for that and a behavior, not just acceptance and go, well, that's just who I am. Give me the pills, doc.
Yeah, no, it's acceptance and let's get out of here. You know, it's acceptance and let's change this. And it's like what you described earlier, that kind of negative acceptance of, like you hear from the mainstream media of, well, you're going to have to accept that you have anxiety and put up with it and manage it for the rest of your life. That ties in with that. Whereas the acceptance I'm talking about is that kind of Eastern approach of, you know, feelings and thoughts come and go. You know, but you've got to be open. You've got to invite them in. You've got to allow what is. You know, you can't deny your experience in this moment. If you're feeling shitty, you know, you are feeling shitty. So accept it, and then you can work with it. You can transform it. And you can move on from there. But like it's the acceptance is like that foundation that stops, particularly with anxiety, the acceptance stops the fighting. It stops the resistance. It stops the pushing away. And all that pushing away and fighting causes tension. And then you become this pressure cooker. When you stop fighting it, it starts to ease off itself, you know?
Yeah, I think that that's a huge separation to make, is the acceptance of not who we are. And I mean, I'll go ahead and on the limb and stretch it out and say, look, they make money as long as you're treating it for the rest of your life. And the fact that a cure doesn't help sustain their mental health economic system, I'm not going to say it doesn't play a part, right? But I mean, the idea that, but we also start to walk this line, don't we, Barry, of we become insensitive, right? I get messages sometimes that I'm insensitive to those that are dealing with addiction, that do need the synthetic pills, that do live off of self-harm, or those that do take the Xanax and have for years and have found ways to manage it, right? And we start to walk that line to where now we're not sensitive now, because we're not saying that, you know, okay, you have this, so we'll just rub your head for the rest of your life, right? I mean, do you get that pushback as well?
How do you mean? How do you mean? Tell
Well,
me,
I
explain a bit
get
more.
I get kind of a pushback many times when I talk about addiction or even mental health, of the idea that you can cure yourself, that you can apply methods, use behaviors, environmental, all these things that you're talking about, and make those changes without synthetic implication. And I'm not naive enough to say that it doesn't help, but the idea that when I'm saying that this is true, that I'm insensitive to those with diseases, right? Those with the special stories that no one understands, right? Those, and I'm not saying there aren't outliers, but you know what I mean? I get
Yeah.
that pushback a lot.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. And I think it's Well, you got to, I suppose, remember people are in a lot of pain as well, and they feel so caught up and stuck and frustrated. And they've tried so many different things, and then if they hear a message of, well, here's a different approach, a lot of people get angry. I had this really simple card video on YouTube. Where you write the messages out in cards and you hold them up and you pass them over. So I recorded on an airplane, and I was basically talking about how to deal with a panic attack in this situation, like being on an airplane, and I was talking about the whole approach, and half the audience loved it. I thought, wow, this is so different. This is so new. And the other half are getting really angry, going, who's this guy telling me that I can get over my anxiety by bringing it on, demanding more, and really angry because they're saying, I have to be on a Xanax, I have to, be on medication, and this is a really dangerous thing to say, challenging. So a lot of kind of kickback that way. But that video had like 8 million views, and you've got half the people fighting it and half the million people loving it. So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. But I get it, because I know what it's like to be in a really shitty place like that, and you're stuck, and you're going, things do irritate you when you see people. It can annoy you to see other people recovered, and they're telling you, well, because it can feel like, well, who are you to tell me? You don't know me and my life. So, I understand the frustration. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely get it, especially the power of that narrative that we tell, that we've mentioned a few times, the narrative of my life. You don't understand. And it does, I think, make us nervous to look up and say, oh, you've made it through, but you haven't had as bad as me, right? That we do start to compare. And I definitely get where they're coming from I guess you do get mad, right? What I found myself early dealing with it and kind of going, there must be something wrong with me medically. There has to be. And I found myself doing testing and all kinds of shit. I could, blood works and natural doctors, right? I'm going, all right, what's tweaking me here, right? And well, good news is I found out I'm healthy as shit, and all of my blood, everything's good, and I'm like, all right. But you find that way, anything to put off that it's something that I can actually deal with, right? We can say that it's my brain, or it's my environment, it's the pills, or I'm different, anything to put off, because maybe it feels like if we truly accept that one more thing that we're doing wrong is that last thing that we can fucking take. So we project that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny when you're talking there, I was thinking, about that, the frustration as well. Nobody has ever come to me and said, but you're not a doctor. It's weird. People don't have a problem with that. And I thought, and I initially had a problem with it myself. I felt insecure about it. Who am I to be going up against all these other academics and mental health professionals and coming out with this story? And it was just kind of over the years, I just went, fuck it. I mean, the thing works. And the way Dare has gone online, it's kind of that same message. People just want a solution that works. People want a method that works, and it doesn't really matter who it comes from, as long as they can see it's getting results for them. And yeah, because it's funny, because when you talk about all those, that feedback and kickback, the kickback I haven't gotten is that, or very little of it anyway, which is quite surprising.
Yes, but man, when I was on Rogan and I was just a mental health counselor talking about Suboxone and self-harm reduction, etc., man, did I get blasted for not being a doctor, or I'm some quack job that doesn't know anything. And I wanted to reply and like, have you looked at peer-reviewed journals and the corruption of it lately and what people say? But anxiety sometimes seems to be like, I'd hate to say it, but it's so bad on people that they don't give a shit whether you're a doctor or who you are, that they're just saying, fucking give me something, right? That we reach out. I was talking addiction, which is linked to brain disease and science, and everyone must be a doctor, but when you're a hammer, everything's a fucking nail. So when I'm talking about chemical responses and things like that, right, I'm a quack and don't know it. But when it's anxiety, it seems like I'll listen, right? You'll listen to anybody who'll talk about that experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I never tell people, hey, don't take your meds, or don't go down that route. It does work for some people. It gets them out of a very stuck place. It shifts things. And it also gives them confidence to go practice these tools as well. Because sometimes people need to take half a Xanax or whatever it is to get out there and do the work. It's just that I hope they go back to their doctor at some stage and say, hey, let's talk about a plan of coming off this. Let's not be on this for the rest of my life,
Yeah,
short-term
100%.
use.
Yeah,
Yeah.
antidepressants are that same way. Suboxone, even when done right, sure, when it's titrated off after the right amount of time, when the beliefs don't associate, I need this because I'm diseased, it can definitely, I'm a fan of whatever works. I used to say, if somersaults work for you, fucking do that.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of 12 steps. I'm a fan of self-harm reduction when applied properly in the right state. And other work is being done. We're not just going pill for the day. Now let's go back to sleep, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
When that work's being done. And could we talk about maybe some tools that you learned or share along the way that are things that people can apply today?
Yeah. You know, so my whole approach, of course, is this idea of stripping away the fear of the sensations. But there's some, and the core work is the dare, those 4 steps. But there's some hacks as well that are very useful, very for particularly when you're dealing with a panic attack. For example, muscle contraction. So when you're in the moment of high anxiety, when you're really feeling like, you're 8 or 9 out of 10, if you actually do muscle contractions now, if you're in a private place and you can actually jog on the spot, perfect. But if you're not, if you're on an airplane, you can clench your hands like this. You can clench all the muscles in your body. So your arms, your legs, hold for 10 seconds, release. You can do reps of that. And what it actually does is, and some people think it relates back to the fight or flight when we were being chased by animals way back when, is that when there's muscle contraction, it sends a signal to the amygdala that you can turn off the stress response now because we're running, we're fleeing. So let's kind of change the chemical response to this threat. So we don't need as much of that adrenaline anymore, but and it just shifts, it changes, and the contractions just help metabolize or help burn off that cortisol that has been released. So that's a really cool one that people can do in the moment of a panic attack. Because it's amazing if you're working dare, it's kind of on a mental level, so you're working through the steps in a mental way and you're stripping away the fear and you're really shifting the power from kind of from the emotional fearful brain up to the prefrontal cortex, more to that logical side of the brain, giving you the confidence back. But then if you can do these little things like those muscle contractions, perfect, because it'll help just cool the system down faster. Another little one is again with the panic attacks is count down from 21 seconds and say to your panic or anxiety, it's got 21 seconds to deliver everything that it's threatening you with. The big bad panic attack, but let's have it, but it's got to happen in 21 seconds. And the great thing about that is that there's a time frame on it. So when you get to 0, you go, sorry, you had your chance. You didn't kill me. I didn't suffocate. So this is obviously just a false alarm. And you can repeat it, but that's a great one of, a window of time where the panic attack has got to happen. Again, it's you feeling back in control, back confident again. So there's some examples of little things you can do in combination with the 4 steps of dare.
Yeah, the first one I like because I think some people, well, I'll speak for myself, when you're experiencing that, you try to almost act like, like you're really stoned for the first time in a group where you don't know anybody and you're like, all right, I'm so fucking normal right now. Am I standing normal? Do I look okay? Right. You get all self-conscious. And when you're going through that, it's hard not to, it's hard to want to do something that may show it, right? That you're sitting there kind of going, okay, I'm doing this exercise. And I actually heard an old man give his son advice one time about getting married. He goes, listen, if you're walking down the aisle and you're about to pass out, I want you to just flex your thighs as much as you can and it'll wake you back up. And then I looked into it, and apparently this is like a thing that like brides will do, right? It's flexing to keep the blood flowing more naturally, right? And even when you spoke about the next one, the cognitive reframing about the 21 seconds and give it to me, I think I was naturally doing it on the plane back then when I was going, all right, I made it 2 hours and I didn't die. So obviously I'm not going to fucking die. So
exactly.
But mindfulness did not help me in the airplane because my chest move guy started going, I'm in a metal tube 10,000 feet up in the air or more, and I'm flying around. There's nothing fucking safe about about what I'm doing. And I think those guys are on strike even, that are fixing the engine, right? Your mind in that mindful when you try to do it. I think, like you said, that's a huge point for people is to really snap out of maybe being mindful. I love the flexing, the muscle contractions, or the walking is what I love to do when I felt that I would just go for a walk and move something.
Yeah, you know, and you get. I mean, exercise is incredible. It's always everyone you talks about exercise is a wonderful tool for mental health, and it is because it does help burn off a lot of this stuff, particularly in relation to anxiety. You know, if you have been feeling anxious, get out into nature, run, get to the gym, whatever, lift weights. You know, that really does improve your mental and physical state. But yeah, on the airplane, it's a funny one. You being mindful in an airplane, you know, it's not going to work if you have a fear of flying. It just isn't. You need different tools. You know, going back to what I was saying earlier, you need kind of wise effort. You need kind of specific guidance for a mind that has run amok. Mindfulness isn't strong enough to calm that emotional part of the mind down, the amygdala. You know, basically the amygdala is like it's like the fire alarm is going off, and you've got to find tricks and tools to turn it off. You know, saying, look, no one's got a gun to my head. It feels like it's got a gun to my head. They haven't. I'm not going to die. So how do I turn this alarm off? And everything we've been talking about is doing that, switching off that panic alarm.
Yeah, and facing it rather than avoiding it. I think the exposure part is extremely important. I think because once you stop exposing yourself, you're going the opposite direction. When you decide not to go out that Friday night, or not meet your friend at the place, or not take your girlfriend or wife to that one thing, when you start choosing that, then I think anxiety is shaping your life as opposed to your message, which is, I'm going to shape you, anxiety, right out of my fucking life.
Well, you know, exposure, but with tools, with the right tools. Exposure on its own is can be counterproductive. You know, if you're white knuckling your way through everything, you know, you might eventually kind of go, okay, I can kind of deal with elevators now. But if you're going into the elevator and you've got a toolkit with you, it's like, no, it's much more surgical. It's much more bump bump, and you come out going, whew, I can really handle this. You know, and it's not white knuckling your way through the experience. So I'm always telling people, it's you're looking to feel anxious. You know, you go out with Dare, use the tools, and you feel no anxiety or panic. You know, it's not great because you want the nervous arousal to practice with. You got to be challenged, practice, build up the confidence. So when people come back to me and say, "Yeah, I'm using Dare, I'm able to drive further, I'm able to drive in traffic, no problem," you know, kind of like, well, let's wait until you start getting anxious first again. You know, maybe you're just having a boost in confidence, but I want to see you being anxious again in that situation, and then use the tools and then be not anxious and see the difference, see how it can be flipped. So that's key, you know, having arousal, nervous arousal, and knowing what to do with it.
That's a huge point. The false, you could call it a false evidence that I'm over it, the false confidence, right? We have a good day or two or week, and you're like, I'm fucking good. I'm taking a 16-hour flight to New Zealand, right? And you're like, just slow down. You don't know, like,
Yeah,
slow down, because I think you don't want to be in that situation. All of a sudden it shows back up, and now your mind's going, oh shit, right? I thought I was good. Everything's bad now. I
it's
like it.
back as bad as ever. Yeah.
Right now, it's got me, and I think it was. I love the idea of walking in with tools. It's methodical. It's a tactical approach to what you're doing, as opposed to just this. I love the white knuckle approach too, but not white knuckling through everything, right? Because eventually you're just biting the bullet all the way through, and you never
Yeah.
purge. You know, these are all, Barry. Thank you so much for writing this book. For one, I
You're
know
very
it's
welcome.
helped so many people, man, and getting by who you are, or if you can do this, if you're supposed to, because you're not a doctor, getting through all that bullshit, man, and putting that out there, because I think that's what I fear most for people that go through anxiety, including myself, is that we don't dare ourselves to go out there, to face those, to challenge ourselves, and not fall prey to the passive apathetic acceptance of that's who we are.
Yeah. And that's why these groups, and we do different training programs where we get push people out, because people are always a little bit kind of tentative in the beginning. It's like they'll take baby steps, but they won't go for bigger stuff. And it's kind of, they're afraid of stimulating the anxiety. They're afraid of kind of, you know, bringing up something that they can't handle again, you know. So they're kind of making progress, but not fast enough. So we get them to go and take big steps, you know, and we follow them in the group and we hold them accountable. So what are you going to do this weekend? And say, oh, I'm going to take the kids out to a ball game. Great. And we ask them, did you do it? And how did it go? Take photos, you know, so keep people motivated to keep taking those steps, because it's easy to fall back into the mode of, well, I'm making progress, but let's not push it too fast, and let's just kind of take it really, really slowly, because that can then slow down to a standstill. Yeah.
How can people sign up for this group? Obviously, they can buy your book on Amazon and everywhere else, but the social connection stuff we talked about, I think, is so helpful to those. How can they sign up?
Yeah, so well, the best thing is get the book, and if you like the book, then think about the other stuff. The other stuff is found on dareresponse.com, DARERESPONSE.com. But get the book. There's a free app that comes with it as well. Join the communities, and if you like it, if you feel you're making good progress, then you can do one of our boot camps. We do these 10-day boot camps, or Dare Advanced Coaching, where we kind of dive deeper into stuff. But start with the book. It's probably the best place. And a lot of people just use the book, just use the Facebook groups, and recover from their anxiety. And it's just amazing to watch. And people do say thank you to me, but to be honest, they're the ones who deserve the credit, because they're doing the hard work. They're the one doing the heavy lifting. They're going to the gym, they're doing that weight, they're lifting it, they're building up that strength. And it does, as I say, it takes a lot of courage sometimes if you've been 20, 30 years avoiding stuff, if you've got a very, very small safe zone in your life.
To walk us out, what would you say to that person who maybe is new to that anxiety monster, if you will, that one that maybe keeping them back? They're thinking about staying home and not going, and they've had those panic attacks, but they're in the unsure, they're in that unknown.
It's what I would have said to myself had I met myself when I was 18, 19 years old, had that first panic attack. I would say, you're absolutely not alone with this. This is completely normal to have this experience. It's not going to kill you. You're not going mad. It's very uncomfortable. It's very unpleasant. But with the right approach, you will find your way out of it, and quite quickly as well if you apply it. So it's just to let them know that there is absolutely a way out of what feels like a terrible prison to be in. And just knowing there's people out there to support them as well in that journey, I think that's just a great place to start.
That's Barry's cognitive rampage. I can't thank you enough for the work, the willingness, and coming on the show as well, and helping those that may feel like there's nothing that can help them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I look forward to having you back, because I'm sure you're going to write something else as well, maybe through this journey and some new discoveries. So I'd love to have you back on, or anytime you want to come on, Barry. Thanks again.
Yeah, it'd be a pleasure. Thank you.
Take care. You all know I usually leave it on to kind of give my closing thoughts on that talk. And, I couldn't help but listen to Barry chat and think about my own life and some recent experiences that, I'd been facing and how I chose to face them. But I think it was important for me to know that it wasn't going to kill me, that I could push forward to it, right? And even knowing and having the mental health knowledge, etc., knowing that that does happen to everybody, I could only imagine those that do feel alone or feel trapped in that anxiety cycle. And I only urge you, no, I dare you to get out, to change the routine, to face it, to challenge what maybe they've diagnosed you with, or to question who they told you you are and what you're going to experience your entire life, and get some small victories. Show yourself, prove to yourself, dare yourself. Don't give up on yourself. Don't fall prey to the apathetic, that's just who I am. You can evolve and change, and know this, that at the end of this road, when you come out of it, you'll be better, you'll be stronger, and you can help other people, because everybody needs everybody out there for some help. Hope you're taking care of you. Hope you're living your cognitive rampage. Love you.